What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. And as of today, it is 2021. So, Happy New Year. And today, we have a special guest, and it's my dad. So, is there anything you want to say, Dad, before we start this?
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Nice to be with you. Happy and healthy New Year. Good things to come. Better days are coming, I promise.
All right. Now, today's podcast is going to be a little bit different because we're going to talk about basically, we're going to talk about our lives through, the years and maybe a little bit of my dad's life and trials, tribulations, and maybe some job experience that you guys might want to listen to, and basically a motivational thing. But first, we're going to do a little story time. So, during, I would say, Christmas weekend, right? We go to Lowe's. And if you want to, say anything on this, Dad, you can. But, you want to say anything on the Lowe's part?
Well, it was a nightmare. The simple things turn into big ordeals, and it was funny for us, but it was so dysfunctional trying to get somebody, and then they have us wait in there, and to help us in an aisle, and then the guy's off. He called off, and then they didn't know, so we're waiting there, and then so we're talking to somebody about getting what we wanted. We wanted something cut. Then she couldn't ring it up. And then tells us to go back to the aisle, and nobody was there again. And then finally get another guy, but he's in a different department, so he's trying to call somebody else. And then the machine that they said to cut, it was just cutting the pipe, but was what the heck did it tell?
The machine was torn up. It was broken at Lowe's. Now, I don't know if anybody else around here has had the same issue. It just seems like for us, nothing's easy, folks. Okay. Nothing is easy, It's just the way it is, and yeah, man. But yeah.
Yeah. So then so the machine's tore up. He gets somebody else, and then they were trying to kind of get out of cutting just a simple piece of pipe, and then finally some guy came home with a hacksaw, and then took him and some other person. I don't know how long to cut it, and it was just ridiculous. But it seems everywhere we go it's like that, one thing or another. Of course, the drive-through is just never right, and yeah, people. It seems that they're struggling with the corona and our way of living currently, and it shows through in just simple going to the store type things, and it's kind of sad. But like I said earlier, better days are coming. I promise.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff is stuff doesn't really happen to other people. It feels like it's just mostly us, but we also have a different way of thinking, I mean, everybody does, but it's all how you perceive it. But something also that people should take into mind is the legalize as time progresses and stuff like that. The legalization of marijuana, for another story would be like me and my dad go to fucking Wendy's, and we order some simple stuff. I mean, it's for 3 people, but no, not a whole lot. Not like some mukbangers in here, but so we order some simple stuff. We go through drive-through and we check stuff. We're like, okay, seems stuff is here, and they say it's there, but they don't look like they're paying attention or whatnot. And so we come back to the house and we're missing a bunch of shit, and they messed up the order. You want to speak on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so like I said, the drive-through thing, man, and you can't go inside some of these places, and shit's wrong. And I'm like, you sure it's right? Are you sure? Yes, sir, it's right. Sure as shit. things are fucked up, missing this, missing that. It seems as if you put one stipulation into things and it blows up the whole fucking order, right? You say no mustard or no pickles on a burger, and it's missing other things and everything else. It's like nuts. We went. Cooper never had Charlie's cheesesteaks, which are awesome.
They were delicious.
Yeah. So I asked him to put the lettuce, tomato, and all that shit on the side. I just said everything on the side. I'm sorry to be a pain, but I don't want shit soggy for when I get home. Plus, to be honest with you, I get the stuff on the side and make a salad. I ate a little feta, oil and vinegar, a little oregano, and we got salad too. But anyway, so because I went on the side, 75 questions, this, that, the other thing. Couldn't get it right. I already said everything on the side. I already said, like, hey, barbecue, everything. And it becomes a huge ordeal. And then the tone of the worker is as if I'm in the wrong, but because it was on the side, the girl was all fucked up and flabbergasted. If I just said, yeah, I want everything on it, and it was on the sandwich, no problem. You're standing right there. But because it was on the side, everything got blown up. Wendy's, the time at Wendy's was just horrific. And I went in there yelling. I finally lost my shit because it happens all over the place. And it's like some of the parts, like you go to one place, it's fucked up. You go to another place, it's fucked up. You go to another place, it's fucked up. For me, and I guess COVID too, it got to me. It was like, holy shit, I don't want to waste time. I already wasted 20 minutes on the line, and then time to pay, and then anyway, you get it. So, yeah, so everything's fucked up. I called up. I was like, listen, I'm really fucking upset this time. Every time I go, something's wrong. And so I said, I'm coming there. I gave him the number of my order from the receipt. I was like, hey, have it ready. I want new food. And then don't bag it because I want to be there to see what goes in the bag. I get there. It was just if I never called. Nobody knew anything. And the lady who I spoke to just never said anything. So I was like, what the fuck? So, yeah, I went to speak to the manager. He was a younger person, and good for him. He's working. He's manager. He's high level in his place and all that. But starts having a bit of an argument and this and that. I'm like, listen, man, I called, went through the whole thing. They had 4 things wrong and whatever. And so finally it took a while, but I got new food, and that was the end of that one. But
and I was in the car the whole time. I was just waiting in the car. Yeah.
But it was bullshit, dude.
It was. The funniest thing is we still went back now. Just yesterday we went back to Wendy's. They had good service, but we almost forgot shit again.
Yeah, they gave me the bag. So here we go. It's one bag. I'm like, it's 3 people. You sure? Yes, sir. I'm sure. Just like I said before. Sure as shit. Wait. There's another bag. I'm like, hey, what's in that bag? She's like, oh, fries, chicken nuggets. What sauce did you want? Meanwhile, she was already handing me a bag, which were burgers and whatever, but and sending me on my way. If we didn't stop, check, and say, this can't, I actually said, this can't be. She goes, I said, are you sure, and all that, like I said. And so, yeah, so we checked it and this and that, and we got home, and there was only one mistake. There was no lettuce on my burger, and that's because I asked for no mustard.
Yeah, most people won't give a shit about lettuce, but it's the principle of if you order something, everything's incorporated into the price. So, if it's advertised with lettuce, you should get lettuce. You're paying, little cents for it, but it's like you're getting cheated out of money. But, I don't give a fuck about the lettuce, but it still should be there.
Yeah, but but it's when you have a stipulation. When you make a little bit of an adjustment, it fucks up everything. And I don't know why. Everybody's mind, I guess it might go back to the weed. I don't know.
And right now, weed is illegal. But the reason why I bring up marijuana is, people that are not on marijuana right now fuck up this bad. Can you imagine what the world would be like, And you'll have those protesters and people who be like, it's a plan. It is a plan. And then you'll have those people who be like, well, it makes everybody happy. But you got to think about it. You got to ask yourself, why am I smoking marijuana? Because I'm happy? Or is it because I'm sad and alone? if marijuana was so great, then everybody would be doing it. And I understand that, I'm also in agreement with, the only reason why it's not legal is because, government and people who make cigarettes, they don't want to lose their money because everybody's going to go get some marijuana. And depending where you are in the states and stuff, it is legal in some states and medicalized is legal and whatever, but like just when they do legalize it eventually because it's inevitable, people are going to pay taxes and people probably will be like, well, fuck that. I'm going to go do it, go to a drug dealer and not have to pay so much taxes for it. But, you don't want people coming to work high. I mean, as it is, I personally have worked with people who come into work high and they fuck up all the time. So could you imagine if it was legal or not? You have anything to say about that?
Yeah, the way I see it is, let me just say, I'm not against weed at all. And when I was a younger person, I smoked the shit out of it. I loved it, man. I really did. I used to say I'll never stop smoking weed. I was a wake and bake type of guy, and for years I loved it, and I get it. So I get it. I get it. People like weed and the feel and the thought process that you have, and just how you see things and so forth. So I get that. For me, eventually, it started reacting bad. I started to get, the paranoid, the bad things you hear about weed. And I tried it. And eventually I was like, well, fuck it. What's the sense of smoking it? I don't feel good. It's just that it makes me, paranoid and confused and so forth. So, that's why I got away from it. Later on, I was not too long ago, because I got sober about 10 months ago.
Almost a year.
Yeah, I don't even try and think about that. But the time. But anyway, but I did. I got sober, and I have terrible anxiety and all these things, so they're pilling me up all over the place. I was like, let me try some weed. So I had someone get me some weed, because I don't know anybody around here. And still, it doesn't like, I don't react well to it. There was some parts, of course, were cool, but other ones not so much. So I didn't continue with that. And if I did like it, frankly, I would have continued with it. But it just not worked. And then it gave me a bad conscience because I have kids, I have my son and my daughter. And so God forbid I got in trouble for it. And I had to be like, telling them stay away from drug and weed and everything. And then here I am smoking away, So I didn't want to be a hypocrite. But I think that, weed, everybody, it's supposed to make you happy, which, you see depicted on television and so forth, and everything's good when you smoke weed, and I don't understand, and a lot of people, it seems to me, most people, smoke weed, right? Which, like I said, I have nothing against that, but nobody's happy, so I don't get it. Like, if weed is so good, right? Why and everybody's doing it? It seemed, like I said, most people. Why is everyone so unhappy? And then and there's so much dysfunction. Like you can't get cold cuts at the market. They can't slice it properly, and then they hit the wrong button. You order bologna, they charge you for pastrami, which is double the price. Shit like that. You ask for thin, you get it however they feel like cutting it.
And that's not on weed, people. That's not on drugs. That's just normal life.
Well, who knows, really? But the thing is, like I said, there's a lot of dysfunction, and it's maddening, and people are not happy. And people are divided, as we know, so much in this country now, which is unfortunate. I hope we get back together. I have great confidence we will. That's why I said better days are coming, right? But it just doesn't make any sense to me. Nothing really adds up to what is good, what will help us function better. I grew up in New York. I worked in delis and pizzerias and all that kind of thing, and eventually became a chef, executive chef. But I know I was a whole lot more functional when I was younger and more accurate in things. I know that, and people around me were too. You always get your slouch or your slug or whatever, But yeah, it's scary. It's a little bit scary out there. It's frustrating. Maybe I need to go back to smoke the weed and try it again, and maybe I could chillax at the deli counter or at the drive-thru. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, you could compare that comparison that you made with seeing people. It's supposed to make people happy, right? It's a false sensitivity or it's a false entity of happiness. But you can also tie that into alcohol because when you're taking, at least in North Carolina, I know this. When you go take to get your permit or whatever on the test, it says alcohol is a drug, and yet you can drink it. It's not illegal, and most people drink because, well, alcoholics, and my dad can definitely tell you his view on it. Um, they get super anxiety, and then they drink alcohol, and it makes it go away. But it's not a forever feeling, so you got to drink more and more. But that's how you become an alcoholic, And it's not necessarily like being an alcoholic is not good. Just like it's an addiction and it's a disease. So people have addictions and addictions can be overcome. But yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit? Get into that kind of stuff there.
People have all. Everyone has a story. I have mine. Everyone has theirs. Some people are able to have a drink or two, and they're good. They're done. For me, I never understood that shit. I'll be like, what's the fucking point, man? Does it taste that good, really? And like, what? Why, if you're not gonna get buzzed up, why are you gonna do that? For me, I grew up, in a violent way. So I developed some things. I'm kind of predisposed to alcohol. In other words, I'm one of those people who can't just have two. It's a never-ending glass.
Not to interrupt, but it's kind of like saying going to Dunkin' Donuts and being like, yeah, I'm just going to order one donut. Nobody orders one donut. You're going to have three. You can't just have one. You got to have more. Continue.
It's true. I'm good for 6 donuts. Anyway, that's part of my personality. Could be addictive. And so, yeah, I'm finding out things in therapy and all that. I was brought up in a crazy home where my parents used to get physical with one another and me and my sister. And I used to have a stick with my name, said Danny's teacher for the summer. That fucking stick I used to get hit with. It was like a piece of wood. It wasn't a stick, really. It was like a piece of wood. The fucking thing hurt, And I got hit with that thing all over the place. My ass, my head, my knuckles, everything. And stuff like that. Again, I grew up in a really strange way and very violent. So apparently, what they're telling me in therapy and all that, and I went to a rehab, I put myself in and all that because my health was bad. But I'm wired, my brain has to rewire being sober because I'm wired in such a way to be very anxious and things like that. Mostly because of how I grew up. So, and I suppressed it with alcohol and other things. When I was younger, I used to do all kind of things. I even had the Quaaludes. The last batch of Quaaludes was those 714 lemon with 2 M's that was depicted actually on Wolf of Wall Street. That they had that Quaalude scene. And they did have a delay reaction because I had them. Anyway, but I used to do all kind of stuff, cocaine, all that back in the day, and finally I OD'd twice, in fact, on cocaine, but lived to use more. But then eventually I got out of it, just by the grace of God, frankly. I'm not a religious person, but grace of God, it just, I started to get nauseous when I even thought about it, and so it kept me away from it, which, because I'd have died. And the same thing, with alcohol. My body started breaking down. I had endless whiskey glass and all that, and yeah, it's fun and it's good, and and I enjoy it. It's like thought process and all that kind of thing, and then, but in the back end, when parts of my brain, I guess, sleep, I'd be a different person, and who the hell wants that? And so I always have to remember, yeah, it might be great to pick up and have a drink, have a bunch. You're not gonna have one. I'm not gonna have one. All right, so drink, but in the back end, it's going to be a fucking nightmare. So it's just not worth it. It's not worth, for me, the cost of it. And my body was just deteriorating. My liver, fatty liver. I was on my way. I drank pretty much to the next step, cirrhosis and death. And they told me, Mr. Pine, you're going to die, if you don't stop. And they were like, cut back on it. And I'm like, okay. Well, that did is keep me drinking, really. Because I couldn't cut back on it. And then I had to face and realize that I couldn't cut back. And, and if I died, my son and daughter, their story in their life would be, that they lost their dad due to alcohol. Like, suppose they made friends or a companion, later in life. And, you get to know one another. And as you trust people, you open up more and you tell your story of your life. And they would have to say, yeah, my dad died of alcohol. And I just couldn't fucking deal with that. That would be their story. I just could not fathom them having to tell that story. And at the same time, I was in a tremendous amount of pain in my stomach and all, which made me drink more because it took away the pain for a little while. But then, I shouldn't say more, it just kept me drinking. And then in the back end, the next day or whatever, my stomach hurts again. And now, I got the cobwebs and what I have to digest shit I said the night before that I didn't mean to say, or at least the way it came out, and, all that shit that could come with it. So it became for me a thing of, my children, my own life, and things like that. And, I go to therapy. I went to rehab because I couldn't stop. I couldn't cut back, like they were saying. And, I found myself, like I said, just drinking still. So I finally had to say, listen, go to the doctor and hey, I can't do it. And it sucks. I was feeling kind of feeble.
Going through withdrawals.
I was hallucinating. I had the shakes and shit, plus the pain. Yeah, I got to that, like I said, I just got to that point. But, so I went to the doctor and said, listen, I can't stop on my own. I just can't do it. So, she called someplace and, had me go there to talk to try and get, to try and go into a facility. And my luck being, nobody had a bed. Nobody had a bed. That's what they call it. Find you a bed. No one had a bed for me to go to.
You couldn't even have in the rehab. You couldn't even have chapstick because, according to my dad, they would try to make shanks and kill themselves because of the withdrawals. They drive you insane, and you would. It's basically a prison, but you have to ask for anything. You got to be at bed at a certain time, and stuff like that. And we'll go into more of that later on. But I want to segue over to basically the beginning and the middle of your life. And how about we talk about schooling for you? Because schooling's definitely have changed for me. Everybody else around the world, we stuck at home and wearing fucking masks and bullshit. But let's talk about schooling for you and some trials, tribulations you've had. So let's start out with that.
Well, I was, like I said, I had a lot of anxiety because the way I grew up. So in school, I used to actually sit in the chair, but I rocked back and forth. I rocked, like as if I was in a rocking chair, but I wasn't because I couldn't sit. I probably had ADHD and all the shit that they have now, but back then they didn't know about all that. And but I had trouble concentrating. I was great in sports, and I was like fastest runner, and stuff like that. But scholastically, I did okay. And then they told my mother, hey, he could do, if he puts his mind to it, he could do whatever he wants. So she holds that against me, right? So I always could be doing better. But if you don't feel to want to put your mind to something, it's hard. You can't just turn it and put it there. It doesn't feel right. So yeah. So like I had a problem in math, but I had a problem in division, right? So my mother took me out of gym, which I love gym. Took me out until my grades got better, right? Which sucked. I was getting punished because I was having trouble with division. So she gets me multiplication. They had these cards. I forget what the hell they were called. But anyway, they had these cards, and it had an equation, and you figure it out. Index cards of some sort. So she gets me multiplication cards, and and then somehow there was a multiplication test. It was like, I remember it was 100 questions. I don't know why we had to take that when we were doing division. I forget exactly, but I remember I got 100 on it, and another fucking kid who's online waiting to get checked came to the cop, looked at my paper, and changed his answer so he can get 100 too. I'll never forget that, David Syme. Anyway, but again, I had trouble in division, not multiplication. So now I get 100 on this fucking test. Now it's like, see, if you put your mind to it, blah, 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 you can do it. And I'm trying to get across it because I don't have a problem in the multiplication. It's fucking division. Anyhow, so that was one thing that always got me. But yeah, again, how I was brought up, I just couldn't sit there, and I never knew what I was going home to. I used to go home when I was getting home, and I used to actually stop and lean forward to look in the driveway to see whose car was there. And if there's no car, I was like, great. If there was a car, I was like, fuck, because I never knew what I was getting into, man.
How about you talk about the divorced club for the children divorce club that you had at your school?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother story. That's deeper.
Yeah.
We always had another woman living at my house. And my mom slept with the woman, not my dad. Because my mother and father, like I said, they used to beat each other up and all this kind of stuff. And my mom would hit first, but it's all wrong. And I still suffer for it. But, so we always had another woman in the house. My parents, they were saying that they were split up. But my mom moved out for a while, but she moved back with the woman she moved in with. So I'm like thinking, it's confusing. For me, it's confusing because no one ever said, hey, I'm bisexual or I'm gay or any of that. I was just left wondering. And so I was in this group, I guess trying to help myself. Remember the guidance counselor, Mrs. Stark, she wanted me to go into this group because I would talk to her. But when it came to explaining things, it's like, well, my parents are divorced, but they're not really divorced yet. They're split up, but my mom still lives at home or moved back home, but she moved with the woman that she was living with in Queens, New York when she moved out. So it's very confusing. And there was a different lady living at my house. She loved me though. She was really nice, Diana, but she lived with us through my childhood. So it was always just this dysfunction. And when fights would happen, whoever was there, be it the first lady who was there when I was younger or old, I don't want to say their names, but they would get involved too. So it was madness. So I was in this group, but nobody could understand my situation.
Yeah, because normally, when parents split up, one of them leaves the house, right? So that's understandable. But, when you have both parents, and not only do you have both parents living with you, but then you got this third entity, that you don't really know, and why are they here? Why is she still here? It's pretty messed up. It would be hard to understand even in nowadays, because I don't think anybody really does that, but
Well, yeah, it didn't stop there because when my mom eventually moved out with her friend or partner or whatever, they got a house together. My dad went through sort of some kind of middle-age depression. They got officially divorced, but he kept my sister and myself. And he wound up getting with my aunt, my mother's sister, because she too was going through a divorce, and she had some kind of depression. And they were friends from when they were younger in their neighborhood and everything, so they knew each other really well from when they were kids. So they wound up getting together. But they're still together, in fact, and they're married now. And it was crazy at first, but I don't know. I started to get in trouble and get arrested. I had like 7 arrests when I was younger, and this and that, and I had to do time and all that. But when I started getting in trouble, everybody got together because we had a few years of there was no holidays or anything like that, and then everyone started getting together. They band together because I was getting in trouble, and then So then it got very respectful and amicable and things like that. So that's why I could tell you better days are coming.
How about your days, like reasons why you had to drop out of high school? And later on, you went back, but let's talk about uh, what made you uh, drop out of high school, and what grade were you in when you did?
Jesus, I don't even remember the grade. Might have been 10th grade. Might have even been 11th grade, but I shouldn't even made it that far. I was cutting school. I didn't have the attention span. I didn't really care. I just couldn't really do the work. I just couldn't sit there. And so I wound up and I had a job. I was working in a pizzeria, Mario's Pizzeria, Oceanside, New York, baby. Anyway, Strong Island. But so I went to work instead. I just stopped going to school, and I just worked because I'd rather have money. And then when I had money and worked more, I had more money to get high with, right? And I was able to get like beer and stuff because I always back then like I knew people and whatnot, and times were very different. They were better back then. I gotta even though I grew up like crazy, but the times, man, were better. It wasn't so. Everything wasn't so uptight and so forth. You know, everyone seemed so uptight over the last several years, and it's like, Jesus Christ, lighten up. What's up with the weed, right? So, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
We're talking about how what compelled you to drop out of high school. Like, was it money? Was it, like, fuck school? Shit. Yeah, it doesn't.
It was purely really social, I guess. When I was in school, I took like satire English. Back then, that was like the hardest English back then, and I passed. But no, I didn't get great grades. I passed, but it was pure money. I wanted money, and I wanted to get laid. And that's the truth. I wanted to hang out with girls. In fact, holy shit! I just remembered they had this. We had this test, one of those state tests or whatever. I don't know what the hell it was called, but it was one of those number 2 pencil type tests we used to have. And they scheduled on like a different part of the day. It wasn't like a regular day at school. He was scheduled for these tests and shit. Anyway, but I had a date, or I shouldn't say plans. It wasn't really a date, but I had plans with this girl. Anyway, so I finished the test under the amount of time, and so I'm like, all right, I gave the paper in. The guy's like, you can't go anywhere. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you got to wait I forget what the time was, a long time ago.
Like 2 or 3 hours.
Something like that, yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, I got plans. And he's like, no, it's against the rules for you to leave, right? And I didn't understand because I could tell people who took it, who would have taken after me, the answers or the questions. I didn't even think of that. And so I left anyway, because I was that kind of kid, a young adult, and then went and did my thing. And then, but then it wound up becoming a thing. It became a huge ordeal, and the government had to come to the school from Albany and investigate the whole thing because to see if I fucked up the whole test for the whole state and all this craziness. For me, I was just going to get laid and smoke weed and stuff. I wasn't, it never crossed my mind. But that happened. That was a big ordeal, dude.
Yeah, nowadays, you can't. You just can't do it, especially now. You're monitored. They won't let you leave. They'll make you stay, but I mean nowadays, they'll have separate rooms. If you finish early, you go to a separate room and wait. But you still gotta wait and stuff. But we also have phones, so we can be entertained. Back then, they didn't have the shit we had and stuff like that. But they also didn't have a better understanding and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what compelled you to be like, that's it. I want to make money. I want to live my life. I don't need school, right? And then, my dad, has been married a couple times, but when he got married to my mom, and I believe my sister. I'm the youngest, so my sister was she born or when you went back?
Yeah, she was born. I hadn't graduated yet. I was doing the construction and electrical at that. I got out of the food really and worked for a friend in his family. They had a company, did construction electrical, mostly actually dental offices. Used to do all that shit. So it's good to know. I use it now and different things at home. Anyway, but yeah, we had my daughter. I forget how old. She was in one of those bouncy seats. She would go da 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 da, and bounce in the seat. And I was thinking about going to culinary school because, after doing electrical work, I would go home and cook. And then I had cooked previously, and I always just loved to cook. I was never taught anything.
It's an art form.
Yeah, it is. Oh, for sure. Culinary arts and science. I love it. But, so I was like, man, but at the time, because I applied to get in the New York City Electrical Union, and again, I was looking to go to culinary school. So to do that, I had to go to night school, dude. Also, and then so I would do construction, electrical, couple nights. I obviously couldn't cook because I had to go to freaking night school, and then go to the college and take a test. But I passed. So, because in order to go to culinary school, you needed to have a high school diploma or GED. So, and it really bothered me that I didn't have that. It hurt my self-esteem and stuff. But anyway, so I got it, and it was like, do I go to culinary school or it came in the mail because I had papers for that. But electrical union papers came in that I could get in, right? I knew some people a little bit. Anyway, it was like, which one do I do? Because electrical union, I wouldn't want to have to travel New York City, but the money was great and the future and all that. Culinary school, you do you kind of do culinary. Hopefully you get rich or make some money, but generally you do it for the love of it. You don't really do it, but to get wealthy, at least that I know from myself and most other people. But yeah, you do obviously have people who become millionaires, and Gassi and those guys, Bobby Flay. But so I was trying to decide what to do. I had a few Heinekens at the time, trying to decide what do I do, and I saw my daughter bouncing in that seat, and I said, what am I going to teach this girl if I don't do what I belong to do? I belong to be a chef. So that's how I made the decision. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go to culinary school. And I applied myself, and I finished top of the class, all that kind of stuff. The science part too, and I had a real good time. We had this guy, Chef Nick. He was the instructor. Oh, God, that guy was great, man. He was great. He was like one of the boys kind of thing, He was. He was great. We got on real good. In fact, he gave me, when I went out into the workforce, he gave me a what do you call that? Not a recommendation.
A letter?
But yeah. I forget what the name of the thing is. It's when you go for a job and they can refer to people.
A referral?
Yeah, and he stood up for me, which normally he didn't do anything like that, but he did for me, so which I was appreciative of. That was cool.
Yeah, so didn't you have to now, you had to open, then go to school, and then come back, right?
Yeah, well, my friend Richie Bagels owned a Bagel Deli Bakery, which I did that previously for him in another location. Insane life. 24 hours it was open. The previous one, 24 hours. Dude, back in the 80s, it was just insane. They had the store, which was a double store, open 24 hours, and then they had a storage store to put flour bags and whatever shit. But we used to go in the where the flour bags are and all that, and just throw down everything, partying, smoking cocaine with weed. We called it caviar, and just all this, and women, and all. It was fun times. I got to tell you, it was fun times back then. But anyway, so I went back to work for him later on somewhere else. This way I could go to culinary school and accommodate making a living. So I would go in at 5 a.m, literally. Would go in, open up, work, I forget how long, 4 hours or whatever. And then I would leave, go to culinary school, come back late afternoon and then work till close, which was, I think, like 9 o'clock at night. And I would do that, and then I'd have homework to do for culinary school. So I had to do that for, I don't know, for a while, but...
So for like a couple years, right?
For a while, yeah, but well, in between, it's confusing because when you were born with, kidney and bladder damage. And so I had to take a leave of absence because we didn't know what was going on with you. You had your last rites read to you from a priest and everything, man. You were in the NICU unit in Cornell Medical in Manhattan. That was serious, dude. Serious. Oh, man, oh, God. I remember you were there for like 8 days. But anyway, it was an insane time, but all worked out.
You persevered through it.
That's right.
So you could say, when you were younger, your life was going towards a bad turn, things were looking kind of dim. But then you changed it up, right?
Well, yeah. I had, like I said, had autumn, got my GED, went to culinary school, did what I had to do with work and everything else to make money. We had to tend to you, and your mom had to stay with you the first while. I forget how long, a year or so. And I went back to culinary school, finished out, top of class, all that, and then went into the field, and I was just chefing ever since, man. And I did a lot of cool shit. I won some awards. I did because I would do charity, like March Times charity, saving babies and stuff like that. And yeah, I won. Me and a partner won overall excellence. It was like it was for charity. It was 350 people. At a country club because I became a country club chef, frankly, and then. Yeah, we won overall excellence, and it was sort of an Ironman type of competition, and then you would serve the food that you made. We had a couple dishes. It was like goose and duck and stuff like that, and we won. But then I won another gold medal in entrees and another thing and something else, and then. Eventually worked for Paula Dean's there in Cherokee. Met her, did a photo shoot with her where I decorated the plates. I did a 2-week freaking Eddie Bauer photo shoot where I was the caterer. Me and this other guy. That was just insane, dude, insane. But it was cool. It was really cool. I made some great money at that, So yeah.
So what would you have to say to people that feel like they're struggling, whether it be in school or at a job, dead-end job, and feel things are not going well? Like, what would you say to them to either, if they're contemplating on quitting and going for something else, but it's risky, something like that?
I would say you already said it. Persevere. Following through in life is one of the most difficult things to do. Following through. And I would say keep at it and follow through and make sound decisions and to move yourself forward. Because I'm living proof. Like I said, I OD'd 2 times on cocaine. I woke out of it, both times, and smoked more. Because I just didn't care back then. But look, now I'm like, I got myself sober totally. I can't believe I don't drink, man. I just can't believe it. I thought I would drink forever. I really did. But, and I had you and your sister along the way. So I got away from, some of it was like grace of God. And then it was, especially having you guys kind of kept me away from things, but I still drank, And so you have to have faith, really. And understand that things, they do change. I helped a lot of people who are on drugs. You were there one time. I was talking to a guy at work, Cody, and I was telling him, hey, man, he was on that, what is that shit called? Meth. Yeah, I didn't do that shit because that was after my time. But, anyway, but I was helpful to people. Another guy on heroin and this and that to try and coach them and tell them things could change because I'm living proof of it. And, and they did. I just kept with alcohol until I couldn't go there anymore. We went through it, and that was that. So just continue to go through, make sound decisions, try and adapt a better attitude. Because if your way of thinking isn't really working for you, you have to adjust the way of thinking, and that's something that I always realized and I always did. So yeah, and get your education.
Yeah. And, for people that are in these kinds of times, and change is something that is always consistent, but nobody likes. Nobody likes change, but it's the only consistent thing. Everything's changing. Nothing is consistent, but the only thing that is consistent is change. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when time changes, so do people's views on certain things. And personally, I feel like the world, like, you can't say.
Well, it's not worth being unhappy. Now I guess it depends on the context that it's in, but like I told you, I took that satire English. J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye, All Is Change. Right, J.D. Salinger was the author, and he said all is change. So, and it is. But I just feel like we could be a little less uptight and a little more humane and things like that. And I just think, with being on computers and things like that, I feel like too much of that is dehumanizing. I think so you're behind a computer, you say things, we're hurtful to one another. I think way too much is not enough love, frankly, and respect going around, but all this change, and the future of human beings is going to be what it is. It was different from when I was a kid. It was different when my parents were of their time and their parents of their time. Everybody has that pocket of life when you wander through life on the earth, kind of, and so it's always there'll always be evolution and things, but some things also remain the same. So just take it light and go with it.
All right. Is there anything else that's been on your mind, or anything that you want to address to the world, or anything?
Pretty much you're doing that. I'm concentrated, really. Not concentrated, but living sober. It's very different. When I know for me, some people say you're a slave to it, but I don't see it like that. But I would adjust my life to alcohol. I adjusted my day to that, and anyone with me would have to too. I mean, when you'd come over, there was no alcohol, not even in the trash for you to see or anything like that. Like I said, I wanted to keep you away from it. But, you decide what time you're going to do what around alcohol, even going to the store. I got to get this, and this, but I got it because I won't be able to drive, So I got to make sure I got everything tightened up so I can drink. So and like I said, my brain's rewiring from just different things, upbringing, facing things, stuff like that. It's some of it's nothing's all bad ever. Drinking wasn't all bad. In the back end, not so good though, and so some things are a bit hurtful, and some things I live with a much more clear conscience, and to me, people have their views on what they believe in God and religion and whatever higher power and all that sort of thing. And for me, God is your conscience. And if you can live with a good, sound, clear conscience, you're next to God. And that's just how I view it. And I look really, holidays, I hope everyone had a good holidays. I know with the COVID, things are being looked at very, down and negative, which I understand because people lost, loved ones, so many people and everything. But I'm quite thankful because, like I said, I got sober and I had my son here for the last 11 days, which was awesome because normally we only get a few days because we live apart. And so that was awesome and doing things. So I just on this first day of the year, I'm just feeling very my and Autumn's here now. My daughter.
Sisters just came here, so.
So I'm feeling very 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 thankful to start 2021, and I just hope and wish that some of my joyful feelings and energy goes out to whoever hears me right now, and then they can feel it in like like a nice positive hug, sort of. That's what I hope.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for doing the podcast with me, our
Sure.
first guest here, and just a little promotion here. My album, Bars in the Silence, comes out February 10th. So it's a little less than 2 months away, almost a month. Be available everywhere. I'm pretty sure, like Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, whatever. So be ready for that. And hope everybody had a good holiday, a happy new year, and yeah. So peace.
Bye, everybody.